What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Nacho Wrestling. WrestleMania is right around the corner, fellas. Let's get excited. Come on. I mean, the build started off pretty shit, let's be honest with ourselves. You know, Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble was a confusing choice when you had CM Punk, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre. The list goes on and on. You know, Jey Uso wasn't anybody's first choice, I don't think. I don't even think he was the betting odds first choice. I'll have to look that up. I'm not going to. And then, of course, you have Charlotte Flair winning the Royal Rumble, which was the obvious choice, of course, and everyone knew it was going to happen. And the build with Tiffany has been, you know, about as much as you expect it to be. You know, Tiffany's getting transitioned suddenly to a babyface all of a sudden because Charlotte's got to be a bad guy. Which doesn't make any sense because, like, Charlotte just came back. Like, wouldn't she want to, like, revel in the cheers for a little bit? But, you know, that negates the people cheering for you, which they don't really do for her. Of course, everything with the WrestleMania build finally course-corrected itself at Elimination Chamber when John Cena went full heel and joined up with The Rock and Cactus Jack, Travis Scott himself. And, you know, it's pretty cool. Not to downplay it at all. You know, it's been talked about so much that, you know, like, what else more is there to say about it other than it's pretty cool. Hopefully he's actually at the Raw in Brussels on Monday, the 17th. I'm recording this on the 14th on Friday. So, yeah, hopefully he's actually there for that crowd. That would suck if he just does live via satellite shtick, but that would kind of help with the heel character. So, but, you know, not really here to talk about John Cena's heel turn. Sort of. I'm here to talk about a question that I kind of have been thinking about ever since this WrestleMania, or Road to WrestleMania, sorry, has started. And that, of course, is what makes a good WrestleMania build. You know, and there are a lot of factors contributing to a good WrestleMania build, you know, from fan excitement and fan attention, you know, like how many, like, fans are latching on to this story, I guess, is the best way I'm going to say that. Or how many casual fans are kind of coming out of the woodwork, which we'll talk about the casual fans in a minute, but I don't really think casual fans exist. Again, more on that in a minute. Like I just said, there are a variety of stories and a variety of themes that sort of work for good WrestleMania builds. There, of course, is the traditional good guy versus bad guy stuff. You know, I think the best example of that in modern history is, of course, the stuff with Roman and Cody. You know, just two clear, you know, like, I know Cody, you know, and I know, like, if anybody actually sees this, they're gonna be like, oh, Cody's not a bad guy. Roman's not a bad guy. You know, it's all on a spectrum now. There are no good guys and bad guys anymore. I mean, yeah, sure, there aren't, but, like, up on the build to WrestleMania 39, with how fucking Roman was dog-walking Cody and treating Cody and everything like that, Roman was a bad guy. And then on the build up to WrestleMania 40, with being loosely associated with The Rock and tagging with The Rock and everything The Rock did to Cody, Roman was a bad guy again. So, like, you know, apples, oranges, whatever, they're both around. Another good example of simple good guy versus bad guy that actually has to do with Roman Reigns on the opposite end of the spectrum is, of course, him and Brock Lesnar on the build up to WrestleMania 31. I think a lot of people forget that even though nobody really wanted to see Roman win that year, the build they kind of had was alright. You know, they kind of let you really think that either man could walk in there and win. And then they obviously did the surprise with Seth Rollins at the end of it all. But, you know, nobody wanted that main event. But at the end of the day, they delivered on a good match. Okay. Like I was saying, they delivered on a good match, and the build was solid. I very much remember the tug of war, you know, between the two of them for the belt. I think that was on the go-home show to WrestleMania. Very weird way to end the go-home show, but whatever. We've, of course, seen WWE fans also enjoy a little more complex twist and turn stuff. Obviously, this year with what they're doing with John Cena is a good example, but I think a couple of other great examples of, like, twists and turns to the story is, honestly, you know, I'm going to keep bringing it up because it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Like, it's a really good story. The Cody Rhodes Roman stuff. Like, having Cody lose at WrestleMania 39 when we all thought Roman was going to lose there. I mean, it made sense. But nah, they drew it out for another year. Yes, they drew it out another year for The Rock to be there. But, you know, I mean, it was still pretty good. Come on. Two other really great examples of twists and turns that kind of annoyed the fans at the time, but looking back on it, did add a little bit to the story. More one than the other. WrestleMania 35, the build-up of Kofi Mania, and then the Becky Lynch triple threat with Ronda and Charlotte. You know, both those feuds had a lot of twists and turns, some more confusing than others, mainly for that Becky Lynch story, like when she got taken out of the match, and it was just Charlotte and Ronda for a minute, and then Becky got added back by, like, intimidation tactics, I guess. I don't know. It was a little confusing, but, you know, the twists and turns were there, and looking back on it, I mean, it made it more enjoyable than just plain old Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey, you know, because by that point, nobody was really wanting just that. I don't know, you can correct me on that. If you were wanting just Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey, you know, fight me on that in the comments, I guess. I don't care. You know, and then on the Kofi Mania side of things, of course, you had Kofi having to essentially earn his match like 3 times over, which, you know, I mean, and then like all the stuff with Vince, you know, looking back on it a little bit, but also at the same time, it really is a good story. It's a really good like story of friendship between him and Big E and Kofi, or Big E and Xavier. So you know, and I think that's why people really were sentimental when Kofi, of all people, also turned heel with Xavier on Big E. Cause like, man, Big E laid his life down for you. The fuck? Come on. He went through a gauntlet for you. So did Xavier Woods. But like, well, what the hell? Ain't nobody helped Big E. Big E had to do all his shit on his own. Win the Money in the Bank by himself. Excuse me. Cash in by himself. Fucking beat Bobby Lashley by himself. Like, come on. I'm still a little salty about the New Day stuff. I'm still a little salty, especially with how shitty they are right now. And of course, there are the stories that like are just so obviously right there for them that WWE has nothing better to do than give them to the fans. That's a great segue into the next big major point that works for WrestleMania builds, and honestly, that's simplicity. You know, don't, like, I know I mentioned twists and turns, but sometimes simplicity really is key for the build up to WrestleMania. Because, like, sometimes, you know, wrestling fan to wrestling fan here, we're not the brightest bulbs or the most savvy people, however you want to phrase it. You know, let's be honest with ourselves. We watch a bunch of sweaty men wrestle each other. Are we that intelligent? No. But simplicity, you know, and all this talk about us being like, you know, low-level Neanderthals or whatever and fitting that stereotype of wrestling fans, you know, simplicity does not mean dumb or stupid or anything like that. Case in point, the build-up with John Cena and Miz to WrestleMania 27, which, whoa, before you turn off, but I know, WrestleMania 27 is like sacred. We don't talk about that shit because it's so doo-doo ass. I get it. But like, it was easy enough to follow and just get through because everyone knew it was filler for the next 2 years of WrestleMania with The Rock. Like, everyone knew that. And I think we were all kind of okay with that once Rock was announced as like the fucking host of WrestleMania, and then like he teased the stuff with Cena and all that shit. So like, I think it's okay. I think it's perfectly okay. And I'm about to beat the dead horse again. Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. Really easy to fucking follow. I mean, Cody comes back to WWE. 3-peat Seth Rollins. Easy. Light work. Fucking smoking on that Seth Rollins pack tonight. Alright? And then what's next for him? He does some fucking random shit. I honestly don't remember what he did after Seth Rollins. Did he like pal around and fuck up with the Judgment Day? I think that's right. Something around there. You know, or maybe that was after WrestleMania 39. I don't remember. Whatever. I have bad memory. Cody does what he does. He wins the Royal Rumble. He fights Roman Reigns. He loses. And he made it clear once he returned after that match with Seth Rollins. He literally said, I want the undisputed title. I want the WWE Championship. I want the title my dad won but technically didn't win. Like, he made it so obvious, so clear, you know, and everyone knew it. Everyone was able to follow it. It made sense. And he loses at Mania, and it's like, oh shit, what is he gonna do now? Well, he's gonna win the Rumble again! And he's going to fight Roman again at WrestleMania 40. And, you know, there's the whole Rock of it all, which is a twist and turn. But I think once The Rock got involved, it was very easy to follow. I don't think it was, like, confusing at all. Like, you know, at that WrestleMania 40 press conference, what did Cody say about Roman's dad or something? He said, like, your father would be ashamed of you for what you're doing. Something like that. Something akin to that. And then pointed at Rock and said something about High Chief Peter Maivia or Rocky Johnson, something like that, you know. So Cody stepped over a line, Rock gets involved, boom, there. Stupid easy to follow, not hard at all. Doubling back again, though, the occasional twist and turn, of course, does work and does spice up and zhuzh up the story, if you will. You know, call this shit the bear the way I'm sprinkling on stuff. I'm going to try and not bring up Cody and Roman again, even though I have it written down. I'm going to try and bring up some other stuff. One thing that comes to my mind is WrestleMania 37 with Roman and Edge. Now, you could say that twist and turn of adding Daniel Bryan to the match was because nobody in their right fucking mind wanted to see Adam Hulk Hogan Copeland Edge take on Roman in the good year of our Lord 2021, right? 2022? 2021, I think. But, like, it's just so fucking, you know, and then the stack. I don't even know how to, I'm still at a loss for words of the stack, of the smashing, the stacking, the pinning, all of it, you know. That story was great, you know, and it was simple, you know. Edge won the Rumble. Edge wanted Roman, he gets Roman, but then Bryan wins the Elimination Chamber, which for some reason was for a shot against Roman right after, which, you know, neither, whatever. I guess Roman had to work that date in his contract. You know, and he had an unfair loss against Roman. So what better way than to earn it again than fighting the guy who's gonna, you know, fight for it at WrestleMania. If you beat him, you're in the match. The logic's there, you know. It's not like, it's a simple twist and turn, you know, combining the simplicity with this other point. I just blew my own fucking mind there. But, you know, it's the simplicity of it. It's a simple turn. It's a simple twist. It makes sense. I think another great one that comes to my head immediately is the stuff with the build up to WrestleMania 26 and mainly 26, because, like, and I'm talking about Undertaker Shawn Michaels. Like, yes, going into it is very straightforward. It's career versus streak, you know. But Shawn Michaels still kind of had a lot left in the tank at that point. Like, he could have went for another 2-3 years. He could have. He could have. Triple H did. Triple H went for like 5 more. Come on. Another one that comes to my mind immediately, that's a simple build-up that a lot of people probably, you know, now looking back on it, like, he was never winning. But on the build-up to WrestleMania 32 with Triple H and Roman Reigns, and then the Dean Ambrose of it all. You know, they had the triple threat match at Fastlane with Brock Lesnar, and, like, Ambrose had a really good showing, and, like, it was possible that Ambrose was going to win that, you know, because he had a really good showing with Triple H, and they were the final 2 at Royal Rumble that year as well. So, and you gotta remember, Dean was fucking hot as shit, nuclear, back in fucking 2016. That dude was over like fucking Rover, dog, and they wanted, I mean, I don't know why they fed him to Brock Lesnar. Looking back on it, like, that way to fucking flatten a guy's love for the business, giving him Brock Lesnar in 2016. Holy shit. Another big thing that I think is important for WrestleMania builds is that the audience isn't really that dumb. Sort of. You know, I talked about it earlier We're not the brightest bulbs in the box. We're not the, sharpest knives in the drawer or anything like that. We're the equivalent of the old gas-powered tools in the shed, while everyone else has those nice fucking battery shits. Like, whatever. And, again, I don't think the entire WWE or entire wrestling fan base is dumb. Except for you. You're pretty fucking stupid. WWE is seemingly of the belief that their fans are low IQ Neanderthals for some reason, and they need to spoon feed them information constantly and regurgitate the same shit every now and again. I think that's something we're kind of seeing right now with Gunther and Jay, actually. They're just, like, going through the motions. They seemingly have built up as much as they can for their match, but we're still 2 weeks out from not even 2 weeks out. We're still a month out from Mania at this rate, because Mania's not till April 19th and 20th, and it's fucking March 14th. So they still have a lot of time left, and they kind of gotta fucking do something, to not just regurgitate the same information and regurgitate the same stuff over and over again, because the fans are gonna get bored of that, and they're gonna notice that you're just spinning your wheels. Another great example of that is kind of back in the day, before I was really watching wrestling, but I kind of have heard about it a little bit. But a lot of the Attitude Era stuff, were there twists and turns every week? Yeah, sure. But a lot of them seem to just kind of eventually lead back to square one, kind of like an episode of Family Guy. They'd go through all the shit, but by the end of the episode, they're back on the couch, So, and any old heads, want to correct me on that, please feel free. I actually would love to be corrected on that, because I do think I'm kind of wrong, but I have heard a lot of people kind of talk about how some stuff back in the Attitude Era was a little stagnant at times. Whatever. One final thing about the audience being dumb or not being dumb is WWE's seemingly false idea that WrestleMania season creates this huge influx of casual fans, whatever that is. Casual fans don't exist. I mentioned this at the top of the video. I was going to talk about this, and if you're still here, thanks for being here. But casual fans don't exist. I really don't think they do. Nobody's watching just WrestleMania and then turning it off and being like, well, I'll find out when it is next year and I'll watch it. Nobody's fucking doing that, dude. Casual fans, at most, are watching the pay-per-views every month and reading about the weekly stuff through Twitter or through YouTube videos or shit like that. That's a casual fan. That's a casual fan. I think some people would qualify that as a diehard. A diehard fan is someone that sits down, watches every Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. That's right, I'm counting NXT too. I think the perfect motto of a true casual fan would be my girlfriend, Natalie. She, she watches, but she doesn't watch religiously like I do. She watches every now and again. If it's on, if she remembers that it's Monday, she'll turn it on. If she remembers that it's Friday, she'll turn it on. But she's not going to seek it out, And I think that's what a casual fan is someone that's going to catch it if they have time and if they remember to watch, or if they don't have anything better to do. I think that's what a casual fan is. I think this idea of the super casual fan, the literal, once a year guy, that's like your friends who come over to watch with you if you're doing a watch party because they don't have anything better to do that weekend. That's what that is. I don't know what to call that. That's not a fan. This last point is a bit more of a personal opinion of mine, but I really do love when a WrestleMania build has a lot of lore building or lore surrounding it. And I know what you're going to ask, what do you mean lore? Wrestling doesn't really have lore. They kind of, wrestlers come in and they don't really reference, old stuff from careers past and everything like that. But Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens beg to fucking differ, because they will make sure that they reference the fact that they have wrestled everywhere together. Back in the day before Ring of Honor was bought up by WWE, back before Ring of Honor was bought up by AEW, they of course referenced a lot of stuff that Kevin Steen and El Generico did. You know, they would just say, oh yeah, these two had a lot of ladder wars, or these two went at it a lot of time, blah, 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 blah. You know, and they still do to this day. So Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, great example of lore building for that. I think another great example is, of course, all the stuff with Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H from WrestleMania 25 to WrestleMania 29? No, 29 was Punk. 28. WrestleMania 25 to 28, that 4-span WrestleMania was, of course, you know, supposed to be the true end of an era for these two or these three gentlemen. Honestly, Undertaker should have retired after that, because it honestly caps off his career perfectly. 18-0, you know, isn't the round 20-0 that I think they were wanting at the time. But ending it with a guy who you're really good friends with after doing 2 years with one of your best rivals in Shawn Michaels, I mean, it was a way to go out. You know, it sucks that they kind of ruined it. You know, the CM Punk match was good, but then they ruined it at WrestleMania 30. So, you know, whatever. This is all obviously, like I said, in regards to the odd build that we have had to WrestleMania. I mean, we're on a different path now. Triple H said it himself at the Elimination Chamber press conference. You know, does it feel like you're on the road to WrestleMania now? Huh? Yeah, it does, Paul. It does. It really does. You know, I'm not gonna lie, you know. And one last thing, you know, you could argue that this build for WrestleMania is normal and par for the course, and everything they've done so far you've predicted. And to that I ask you, what the fuck are you smoking? Lint from your dryer? You know, let me know what WrestleMania builds you guys are fond of down in the comments below. What do you think of this year's WrestleMania build for the major matches so far? Like I said, let me know down in the comments below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to stay up to date on all things Nacho Wrestling, and I will see you guys next time.